From Courtside the Virtual Hardwood, it's the NLSC Podcast, a weekly show for basketball gamers and hardcore hoopheads. This is episode 588. I'm Andrew in our forum, Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. I am joined as always by my co-host Derek, DP3 in the forum, and DP3G and DP384 on X. Derek, another preview season is upon us. The juiciest details are yet to come, but we do have some news to sink our teeth into, and so, as always, please tip us off.
Yeah, our main topics today revolve around NBA 2K26, where we will discuss the cover athlete and cover art choices, as well as the first features list that was provided for the game. But first, Andrew, I wanted to get your thoughts on this article, which was sent to me by Cedric Veazey, listener of the show and someone who truly loves basketball video games. He's somebody that wants to see competition in the space, which I think most people do. And this article is from January 15th, 2019. It was published by Polygon, and it was titled NBA 2K Licensing Deal Gets Lucrative Long-Term Extension. And I want you to think about the timeline here. So this is definitely worth bringing up, and I appreciate the fact that he forwarded this article to me. It states, the publisher of the NBA 2K series of basketball video games has signed a lengthy extension of its licensing agreement with the NBA and its players union, the companies announced Tuesday, securing the future of America's most popular sports gaming franchise. It's going to cost Take-Two Interactive, parent company of NBA 2K publisher 2K Sports and developer Visual Concepts, a significant chunk of change. The new deal is worth up to $1.1 billion over the next 7 years. Now get that. It said next 7 years. This was published in 2019, Andrew. That means that this contract is going to be up next year. At least that's what the timeline looks like. Continuing on, it states reports the Wall Street Journal, citing a source familiar with the contract. The source also told the newspaper that the figure is more than twice the cost of the parties' previous licensing agreement, which they signed in 2011. So what do you make of that? We're looking at negotiations probably happening right now, right? But no matter what, they're going to happen at some point in 2026 because this contract is going to be up. Is this something where Take-Two attempts to, get that exclusive license? Do you think that this could be why EA Sports is acting now in the basketball gaming space? Maybe they're going to try to get involved at this point and maybe bring NBA Live back. Could this signal like a significant turn in the basketball gaming genre? I'm not sure.
I mean, it certainly could, couldn't it? And with EA looking to get that exclusive deal, and apparently getting that exclusive deal with the collegiate licensing company for a college basketball game, it's certainly possible that maybe they go the collegiate route while 2K, Take-Two, continues to have the NBA license. I certainly would be surprised if 2K loses the NBA license. I don't think they should. As much as I've criticized 2K, we criticized their pettiness on the show last week. I criticized their pettiness in last week's Monday tip-off. We've criticized NBA 2K itself, the games. But I still want NBA 2K to come out, as I would like to see NBA Live come back. It certainly is possible with this negotiation that they seek that exclusive deal. Whether the NBA is actually interested in that remains to be seen. So far, they haven't been like the NFL and offered that exclusive license. I think the NBA does want to have multiple licensed products. They do have long relationships with both EA and 2K, obviously. 2K, I'm sure, would probably like to be the undisputed home of basketball gaming, as they put it in that statement. So getting the exclusive NBA license would certainly be a way to continue to dominate in that market. They're already doing so anyway. But again, billion-dollar corporations are going to be petty. They're going to want to maximize their profits. They're going to want to outmuscle the competition. So it wouldn't be a surprise. As you said, with EA Sports re-entering the space in 3 years' time, obviously, at the earliest, it may be that they're trying to re-establish their name, make sure that the NBA realizes, yes, we're interested in making a basketball game, not an NBA game at this point, obviously, but we do want to be players in the space. So like you say, it could be a way to re-establish themselves, get their foot back in the door, which is somehow not being slammed shut on them after all of the disappointments and disasters over the years, and make sure that the NBA doesn't seek an exclusive license, an exclusive agreement with any one particular company. So it definitely is possible. I imagine that 2K is going to be paying a pretty penny for the license this time around, but it's also going to make bank for them, so it's a worthy investment.
Yeah, to give you an idea of what the cost might be, the article continues, 2019 marks the 20th anniversary of the NBA 2K franchise, and considering the series' recent success, it stands to reason that the NBA and NBPA would raise the asking price for a contract extension. The fee is based on a percentage of Take-Two's NBA-related sales, according to the Wall Street Journal. So that tells you it's going to cost a lot for that license. I don't know. I think I could see Take-Two trying to push for that exclusive license. And I could see the NBA considering doing an exclusive deal, potentially with Take-Two, due to the fact that, maybe it's easier for them to work with one company.
Sure.
Right? As it relates to, contracts, copyright stuff, assets, the relationships in general. Maybe that would be easier. Maybe that's been great for football, right?
Quality
for
control,
the NFL,
I guess,
yeah, exactly, with EA Sports. So I can see it being considered, but I can also see it, being taken off the table because, like you stated, and we've talked about on many shows past, I'm sure that's been brought up before. I'm sure they've sought that exclusive license and the NBA wasn't having it, right? They didn't want to put that in the contract. So, we hope that competition comes back into this space and that it's allowed to come back into this space because people do deserve options. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye out for, either later on this year or beginning of next year, because going by this article, that contract will be up.
Oh, definitely. And as you said, it's a safe assumption that they are already in negotiations. They want to extend that. They don't want that to lapse. They don't want EA to jump in that contract. Although if EA is still rebuilding their game with a view to coming back in 2028 or 2029, they're not going to be able to jump right back into the NBA space either. So I don't think EA would be getting the exclusive license this early. But yeah, I could certainly see 2K going for an exclusive deal. Once again, I don't think they are above that as a company. And again, it would be a way to fully strengthen their stranglehold on the market. We did see that NBA game starring mascots. I haven't played that game, haven't really heard exciting things about it, but it is nice to see other games being produced, other games being developed with the NBA license. I do think that the NBA wants that. They want to leave the door open to other developers to attempt to make NBA games of different kinds, and maybe another arcade game back in the space, maybe another sim game. We'd certainly like competition, as you said. So we will see. 2K, I'm sure, are not going to let that lapse anytime soon, and they have been a successful partner for the NBA, so I don't see them losing the license at all. But yeah, that certainly is a lingering concern, the idea of an exclusive contract. We've seen what that has done with Madden, and I can't really speak to the quality of Madden. Like I've said before, I don't play that series. I can only go by what people have said, but even if you are happy with Madden, you should always want competition in the space, alternatives that are going to encourage each game to do better and satisfy different gamers' tastes. So, hoping for the best there. Going to be an interesting few years in the basketball gaming space. And once again, shout out to Cedric. Great support over the years. And as you said, definitely loves his basketball games.
So let's get to our main topics, where we're going to discuss the cover athlete choices and the cover art. And, for NBA 2K26, there's 4 different editions. There's the standard edition, which has Shai Gilgeous-Alexander on the front. And we'll talk, that cover art is just a mess. It's getting picked on social media like you wouldn't believe. It was picked on our Discord, and we'll get into why. There's a WNBA edition with Angel Reese on the front, a similar cover to the SGA one. The Superstar edition with Carmelo Anthony as the cover athlete, and the Leave No Doubt edition, which has people chuckling. They're like, 2K will do anything they possibly can to, have as many editions as possible to, get people to spend a little bit more money. The Leave No Doubt edition, which has all of those athletes that I just mentioned on the cover. The only cover that I'm fond of really is the Carmelo Anthony cover, where he's doing his signature 3 to the head celebration, and he's in his New York Knicks number 7 uniform. I'm a fan of that cover overall. It has the Stay Me 7-0, which is like stay mellow, right? Like that's what it's supposed to be, but the 7 represents the L and it's upside down or whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, I like that cover. But this SGA one, Andrew, where they have SGA dribbling up court, and behind him is Luke Cornett. They have a mirror image of Al Horford. So there's 2 Al Horfords on this cover and another Celtic. It might be another Luke Cornett, I don't know, but there's another Celtic there in the front of the image. All the players are facing different ways. The Luke Cornett screaming celebration pick is from a game against the Lakers. The Al Horford mirrored image where he's in a defensive stance, that is also from a game against the Lakers. So they weren't even playing the Thunder in this game. A lot of people think that this image was created using AI, and I wouldn't doubt it. And the SGA actually isn't playing the Celtics at all in that image where he's, pushing the ball up the court. He's actually playing against the Toronto Raptors. So the cover is just a complete mess, and I can't believe they're sticking with that. But it literally, Andrew, it looks like it was made by AI. Like somebody said, make SGA dribbling up the court and put players around him, and then that's what they came up with.
Yeah, I would say that it is the worst cover the 2K has done. This includes players that I'm not fond of as the choice of cover player. I'm fine with the choice of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as the cover player. Obviously very appropriate with him just winning the championship with the Thunder, of course. But, yeah, for Celtics, why is there a specific opponent on the cover? Why are there clones of the same player on the cover? It's just bad. And as I said in our Discord, I don't mind if they reuse an action shot from a game. They don't necessarily have to bring in the cover player and do a unique photo shoot. I know that EA and 2K have done it over the years, and that's fine. But they've also used shots from games before, and that's fine as long as it's a cool shot and there's some cool background art on the cover. This is not cool art. It is very generic. It's like they've redone last year's design with AI. Like you said, it really does feel that way. Just a bizarre choice all around. I agree that the Mellow cover is probably the best. Even there, the background, it's just a photo. It's just a photo blurred out. There's nothing very artistic, very exciting about it. I suppose the Leave No Doubt edition, what a name for the special edition this year. Not that it's very special when you look at the pre-order bonuses. I'm sure we'll get into that soon enough. That might be the most artistic cover. It's still not a great one. And look, it's the cover. At the end of the day, it doesn't speak to the quality of the game. NBA Live 99 is a fine game. Antoine Walker, one of the least popular NBA Live cover athletes. That's my classic example there. Don't judge a game by its cover, as you would in a book. But it's still the face of the game. It's still that first look at the game. You want it to be exciting. You want to have cool cover art at the end of the day. And this just isn't it.
Yeah. Outside of the art, I have no problem with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander being the cover athlete. I mean, I'm not a fan of his game. I think that a lot of times he doesn't set the right example on a basketball floor with all the flopping and foul baiting. And
sure.
I feel like he's playing the refs, honestly, more than he's playing basketball and truly competing.
That custom cover where he's at the free throw line? That's been making around.
Yeah, similar complaints that I had with James Harden, right, and whatnot. But he was the MVP of the league. They did win the NBA championship. He was the Finals MVP. He was the scoring champ for the league. Like he has the resume for it, right?
Yeah, makes sense.
This isn't like the original NBA shootout with Sam Cassell as the cover athlete. And no, I love Sam Cassell. Don't get me wrong. Huge fan of Sam Cassell, but he was even a fringe starter at that point. Right?
Yeah, that was not.
He wasn't one of their best players, for the Rockets on the original NBA shootout. And then you had like Steve Smith for Fox Sports NBA Basketball 2000, and then you had Glenn Rice twice in the NBA In the Zone series. So, from a accolade standpoint and from a stats standpoint and whatnot, SGA fits the bill, right? Or the standard edition cover athlete. But that cover art is beyond lazy. Like, that is super lazy. And that's another example of, people like, well, everything gets better with time. Well, this cover proves that that is not the case, because there have been many better covers in the past with more detail, with more effort, etc. So let's get to the Superstar Edition cover, because I want to go over the WNBA one a little bit in more detail as far as the athlete choice and whatnot. But Carmelo Anthony, it's the Superstar Edition, and there's no doubt, Andrew, that he was a superstar. Right? Like,
yeah,
he averaged over 20 points per game every single season from 03-04 through 16-17, career 22 points per game, Hall of Famer, 10-time All-Star, scoring champ in 12, 13 with the Knicks, had an appealing game, one of the best one-on-one players of all time. And yeah, I mean, you can say, there's a lot of other players out there that deserved it more. You could say there's other Hall of Famers that haven't had a cover that should get one, and we'd love to see it. How about Julius Erving, right?
Sure.
Love to see him on a cover at some point. But Melo was a superstar, and he was also an incredibly popular player overall. And he's still constantly talked about today. Like I said, I don't mind that choice for the Superstar Athlete cover, and I don't mind the cover art.
Yeah, it seems like they want to celebrate some recently retired Hall of Famers with some of the recent special editions. I know, of course, they had MJ for 2K23. That made sense. Kobe for 2K24. You can't really pass that up. But with Vince Carter last year being the special edition cover player, yeah, it certainly makes sense that Melo will get his flowers this time around, retiring around the same time, going into the Hall of Fame. Yeah, absolutely no complaints about Melo being a cover player in retirement for a special edition, calling it the Superstar Edition. Again, you might as well give it some kind of name, some kind of catchy name. That's what they've been doing in recent years, rather than just saying the Special Edition or Ultimate Edition or whatever. I mean, Leave No Doubt Edition. There you go. But yeah, no problems with Melo at all. It's been pointed out, and it's kind of a cool fact, that he has now been on the 2K cover, an NBA Street cover, an NBA Live cover, and an NCAA March Madness cover. Kind of like the basketball gaming version of the EGOT, Derek, the Emmy, Grammy, Oscar, and Tony Awards, the entertainers that win all of those awards. He's got all of those covers now.
Yeah, that's quite the accomplishment. And as we know, he was an excellent college player, winning the national championship. So it was nice that he was represented on a college game, right? I think that's cool. And so let's get to the WNBA edition cover. First off, it's as lazy as the SGA cover, possibly created with AI. It's Angel Reese pushing the ball, and you see like a bunch of players on defense in red uniforms, and they're just kind of like facing different ways. It's a weird cover. I don't like that cover, and I don't like the SGA cover overall. But I think as a cover athlete, I don't like the Angel Reese pick. I don't think she sets the right example as a person or a player. Her popularity feels forced on the fans. And I think she is loud and obnoxious. And I think she handles herself poorly off the court, where she does not set that positive example that I mentioned. And on the court, she is not inspiring in the least. In fact, the complete opposite. She is looked at as the league joke, where you hear far more about her missed layups, stat padding, and low-skill basketball than you do anything positive about her game. If you go on social media, Andrew, and you look at any posts about Angel Reese, it doesn't matter if it's ESPN trying to pump her up, or Bleacher Report, or their affiliates. It doesn't matter if it's a random random account. It doesn't matter if it's a WNBA account. Pretty much 99% of the comments tell you that they think she's the league joke, right? Like, it's people that think that it's like, why is she being promoted so much? Why is she being pushed on us? She can't buy a layup. She's low skilled. She is loud. We're sick of her. And I think that they made her the cover athlete, maybe to push her even more, maybe to capitalize on the drama surrounding her, all of that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of that one. I'm kind of sick of hearing about her, honestly. I'm constantly hearing about her even when I don't want to. And Yeah, that's my opinion on that. I think there were other choices that would have been great, but controversy and drama sells, right? So maybe they were going for that. But yeah, I don't like her as a cover choice.
Once again, leave it to the community to produce a meme cover. Somebody has made an edit of that cover where she is carrying a brick instead of the WNBA basketball. Yeah, that's a great point about cashing in on the drama. Oh, why'd you go with Angel Reese as opposed to Caitlin Clark? And Caitlin Clark would seem like the obvious choice, the player that 2K would want to partner with. You know, we are the undisputed home of basketball gaming. We are the greatest game. Every game gets better every year. Saw that sentiment echoed on a Reddit post that I read this morning. And of course, Derek, it was the usual, you only like the old games because you're nostalgic for them. Everything always gets better. Well, just like these covers, I suppose. But yeah, that is a great point that they're trying to cash in on that controversy. It is a surprising pick considering that Caitlin Clark is so popular, and it will make sense for 2K to partner with her and put her on the cover. The WNBA edition is, of course, a USA exclusive, only available in GameStop, so it's, I suppose, not the edition they expect to sell as many copies of. It's also a physical-only edition, whereas the Superstar edition and the Leave No Doubt edition are actually digital only. The standard edition will also have a physical release, so I suppose it's not going to be their most prominent version of the game, but yeah, certainly an interesting choice.
And it's not even, it doesn't have to be Clark either. I think that she would be an obvious choice. Especially because of how appealing her game is too, right? That's the other piece of this is it's not a ton of posts on social media, and she's not a league joke, right? Like her game is appealing to the masses. I think she's an outstanding player overall. But it's, what about Brianna Stewart or Paige Beckers or Arike Ogunbowale, who is an outstanding scorer, or Kalia Copper, who averaged 21.1 and was an all-star for the Phoenix Mercury, who is 10 times more skilled than Angel Reese as a basketball player, or Nafisa Collier. There's so many players that would be better choices than Angel Reese on and off the court. And, it's not like Angel Reese, is also producing wins. I mean, I think right now the Sky are 7-13, and last year they weren't great either. So it's not like she's a winning player either. So yeah, not a fan of that pick. But any other thoughts on the cover art or cover athletes before I get to the community's responses?
At the end of the day, it is just the cover, so it doesn't speak to the quality of the game, as I said. But I still think you want to make that good impression with the cover. You want it to have artistic merit. You want it to be visually appealing. And like I said, these covers just aren't it. And I suppose they don't really need to catch people's eye to sell NBA 2K these days. Once again, they are the only sim game in the space. More often than not, they're the only basketball game every year in the space, irrespective of subgenre. So they don't really need to try, I suppose. But that is kind of disappointing. That is lazy. And it is a shame that we have very uninspired cover art here. Like we said, the Mellow cover is probably the best simply by not having those bizarre clones in the background. So yeah, probably the most underwhelming set of covers we've ever seen. Before we go on, a reminder that the NLSC podcast comes out every week on the NLSC, nba-live.com, as well as our YouTube channel. We're also on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other podcast apps. If you're listening on any of those apps, we'd greatly appreciate a review. To keep up with the show and everything we're doing with basketball gaming in general, connect with us on social media. On Twitter and Facebook, we are the NLSC. We also have an Instagram, NLSC Basketball, and on YouTube, we're youtube.com/NBA Live Series Center. Once again, visit us at nba-live.com, where in addition to the podcast, you'll also find all of our original content, as well as our forum and modding community.
So I asked basketball gamers, what are your thoughts on the players chosen to be cover athletes for NBA 2K26? And what are your thoughts on the cover art? That's so Rel at _Relhouse states, I'm happy to see Shea and Mello, but gives a thumbs down to Angel Reese. Steven at The Live King says, they keep changing the covers every season, so it doesn't matter. They could have put more effort into the designs. The NBA Live 19 cover seems like it put more effort into it than this. And if you remember correctly, Andrew, Joel Embiid was the cover athlete for NBA Live 19. He continues, I liked it when they used painters to do their covers.
Yeah, we have seen some really creative cover art for NBA 2K. You look at the Devin Booker cover for NBA 2K23, both Kobe covers for NBA 2K24, although they were based on photos, they were an artist rendering of those famous photos of Kobe, and they were far more creative. And the backgrounds, even though there wasn't a whole lot going on there, yeah, still more creative, still more appealing than what looks like AI slop.
NBA 2K11 and 2K12 were awesome, right?
Yeah.
Those covers were great. A lot of people look back on those covers fondly. NBA 2K Fadeaway at NBA 2K Fadeaway states, let me put a 32-year cover of an EA game that I played in my Pentium 386 PC, and it's a game that you speak fondly of, Andrew. Michael Jordan in Flight, which was created by EA Sports. And yeah, that's a pretty cool cover as well, with Jordan throwing it down. I mean, it's got the black background and you got the hoop in there, and yeah, I'd say I like that one better than the SGA cover.
Yeah, it's simple but effective. Definitely like that cover. It's a solid game for its time. It's got some pretty impressive features for a 1993 PC game. Actually managed to source a copy, which I sent to you as well.
Yeah, we were just talking about collections in the Discord. I'd be curious who has more basketball games, you or I. I know that you are closing in on 200 physical copies of basketball video games. I think I'm probably around there. And I might have a slight advantage in this case because I get the NTSC games.
Yep.
And you haven't had access to those, so my collection might be a little bit bigger, but I'd have to check.
That'd be interesting. We'll need to double check that. I actually need to take an updated photo with some of the games that I've acquired in recent years, because that last photo that I took was in 2022. It's just a matter of pulling everything out and taking the photo and then putting it all away again. I will say that I do have the oldest game in the collection, an actual physical copy of NBA Basketball for the Intellivision, which was the first NBA licensed game. But as you know, Derek, because we have played that game, and I've covered it for Way Back Wednesday, you helped me get the footage for that retrospective that does not have real players.
Royce at Royce Brink 14 states, no real surprises except choosing Angel Reese, which looks like it was done for reasons other than basketball, and I completely 100% agree. He continues, the cover art just seems generic, and the pictures too. Jay at JaJ World 3 states, only issue I have is the Shea cover. It's lazy. It's two Al Horfords. The Luke Cornett silhouette is from a Lakers game. Shaking my head. It's just lazy work. And yeah, that's basically what we said. It's definitely a lazy cover, possibly created by AI.
See, the thing is, I don't understand why they need those other plays in there. Why don't you just have that court background, that blurry photo as the background, like you did last year with NBA 2K25 and Tatum and everyone? You don't really need to have an opponent in there, especially if you're going to clone the opponents like that. It's just a very weird choice.
I think it was trying to be different while also trying to continue to be lazy. That's my opinion. So I believe we have responses over on Facebook.
Yeah, a couple of people weighed in on Facebook as well. Martin says, foul merchant, ball hog, bricklayer. So not a fan of any of the choices there. Renee says, Caitlin Clark should have been the cover athlete. Shea's a great choice. I'm a Melo fan, so it's all good.
Yeah, I agree that all three could be considered controversial. I think the least controversial one is probably Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, just for the fact that he was the MVP, right? They just won the title.
Current star, yeah.
Yeah, current star, like, that makes sense. I can see why the Carmelo Anthony one might be contested. And I certainly see why the Angel Reese one was made fun of, honestly, and was not popular amongst gamers if you look at all the comment sections and whatnot. But hey, like I stated, maybe they were trying to capitalize on that controversy.
And as far as Melo being the retired player this year, like I said, it makes sense with him going to the Hall of Fame, with him being that more recently retired Hall of Famer. That's what they've been doing with recent special editions. And they've already featured a lot of other players as the special edition. And of course, it hasn't always been retired players. LeBron James was the special edition cover player for NBA 2K19, and obviously still active to this day. but I'm fine with them celebrating some other recently retired Hall of Famers, and indeed going back and celebrating other Hall of Famers. Like you say, a Julius Erving cover would have been pretty cool, especially with this being the 50th anniversary of the final season of the ABA, Derek. I'd love to see some more ABA representation in basketball video games. Obviously, the ABA folded before either of us were even born, but we still have great affection for that league and its place in basketball history and what it meant for the NBA, getting those teams, getting that style of play, getting the three-point line, Derek. So I'd love to see more ABA representation. Would have been cool to see a Dr. J cover with that in mind.
Yeah, how cool would it have been to see like an ABA edition, right? Where they paid tribute to the ABA and, added a mode for that or added it on to My NBA Eras somehow. That would be awesome. And like you stated, 50th anniversary, I think maybe a failed opportunity to not take advantage of that. But Andrew, we talked about the fact that they released their first features list where gameplay was seldom mentioned, only a couple tidbits related to gameplay. You kind of summarized what was announced already, and you posted that on the NLSC. But if you want to go over some of that, I think that would probably be helpful as well.
Yeah, so there is a preliminary features list out there, which you'll see on various pre-order listings, such as the Steam Store page. That's where I copied this from. The introduction says, bragging rights are on the line in My Career, My Team, My NBA, The W, and Play Now. Showcase your bag of moves with hyper-realism, powered by Pro Play, and challenge your friends or rivals in NBA 2K26's competitive modes, and leave no doubt that you wear the crown. Just a basic introduction there, confirms a lot of the staples, no surprise. There's a few bullet points there. Powered by Pro Play, dominate every possession with immersive technology that directly translates NBA footage into realistic gameplay. Feel more connected to every dribble and crossover with revamped size-ups and experienced fast-paced dynamic movement with all new Pro Play features. Also mentions squad up in the city, build a transcendent My Player, and climb the competitive ranks to reach the pinnacle of NBA stardom in an all-new My Career journey. Team up with friends in a stunning, streamlined city, earn recognition and increase your rep, and battle rival squads for park supremacy. Unite stars in My Team, collect and compete with past and present legends of the game in My Team, assemble a star-studded roster, put your dream team to the test in new single-player and multiplayer modes, and acquire new cards to make your My Team fantasy a reality. And finally, Your Team, Your Story. Lead an NBA franchise as a general manager in My NBA. Choose from all 30 teams, experience 30 unique MyGM storylines with real-world inspiration, and chase the ultimate goal to win a championship. Influence the future of the sport and leave an indelible mark on the league. So just your basic hyping of the game without going into too much detail before the preview season gets underway and we actually get insights into what's happening with the actual features and the actual improvements. The only real gameplay touched on there is Pro Play, of course. No surprise that it continues to be part of the game. I'm not too concerned about that list at this point, Derek. As I said, it is a preliminary features list, pretty much a placeholder before they announce anything. But to that point, it is hard to get hyped without hearing anything more substantial.
Yeah, I think the closer we get to PS6 gen, the more worried I am that we're going to get mostly copies of the previous year's version of the game, right? Like maybe they're going to stop innovating as much. And it's going to be like, this is basically what you get for the rest of the PS5 cycle. I hope that I'm wrong. I hope that there were quite a few gameplay improvements because it needed it. From NBA 2K25, like I said, hopefully improved foot planning, improved player movement overall, less jankiness to it, less ball warping, less suction, less canned field. Like I do hope that there are improvements made to the gameplay. It sounds like maybe they're going to be diving even deeper into Pro Play, which could be a good thing, but also add even more of a canned feel, right, to the action. So that's going to have to be like a wait and see thing where we'll really only notice it once we get our hands on the sticks, because damn well, Andrew, we're not going to get a lot of footage before the game comes out.
And even if we do, it's not necessarily going to be from people who know how to play the game.
Yeah, exactly. I think that it speaks volumes that in the first week the game came out, I posted an NBA 2K25 Celtics versus Knicks gameplay video, and it got over 20K views. And the most popular comments were, wow, it's nice to see somebody that actually knows how to play the game.
Yeah,
right?
people love that. Yeah.
And whatnot. Yeah, because these preview season videos, these gameplay videos are the majority of the time piss poor. The people that are on the sticks really don't know how to play the game. They don't know how the players play in real life, so they're not using them correctly. They're playing on some god-awful views at times. There's no real variety to their gameplay. They're not showing off any of the new gameplay features or, showing off, much variety with the gameplay at all. So I would keep your expectations low when it comes to the preview season gameplay. I would actually recommend anybody who listens to this show to maybe wait to purchase the game until it releases and you see trusted creators out there, showing off some of the gameplay. And maybe that will be like, okay, well, I see the improvements and I am willing to fork $70. $100, maybe even more, depending on how that footage looks and if you see those improvements, etc. So my recommendation is maybe do like a wait and see approach from creators that you trust before buying. And I think that's a damn shame because I don't think it's always been this way, Andrew. In the basketball gaming space, the preview seasons used to be longer. We used to see footage earlier. Sometimes the footage would even look good during preview season, where the people that were playing the game knew what they were doing. So that is a damn shame.
Speaks to the value of competition alternatives in the space once again. And like I said, I don't want to put too much stock in what is clearly just a preliminary list of features, a placeholder list, I suppose. But it does confirm the return of expected staples, which is nice. It doesn't really say anything about my team there that we didn't expect. We knew there were going to be legends and current players alike. We knew there was going to be some kind of revamped modes, tweaks to the current subset of modes within my team, which is always appreciated. But of course, grid is always an issue with my team, and they don't always design the modes in a way that is very user-friendly, sometimes forcing players to play sub-modes that they don't want to complete agenda items or whatever. And as I said in a previous show, I know why they do that. It is trying to encourage people to play a little bit of everything, but that's not necessarily what people want to do. Looking at the note about the city and my career there, Transcendent My Player, well, yeah, that's according to whatever meta build is the king this year, I suppose. Competitive play, obviously going to be a thing. They do say a streamlined city. It'll be interesting to see if they continue to scale down the city, because that is so much running around doing nothing. And I've talked about that before, Derek, that the open world approach in my career is just a bad fit, because so much of it just feels like a pretty loading screen, basically. It's not really gameplay, it's an extended loading screen to get into the shops, or to get into the park, or the rec, or Pro-Am, as the case may be. The rest of it does sound like a variation of what we've seen before. Once again, I do think it's a placeholder, so I don't want to put too much stock into it. A few people have pointed out that the announced trailer has Spike Lee in it. He's doing the voiceover in that trailer, and people are speculating, especially with it being the 10th anniversary of his story, Living a Dream, in NBA 2K16, that he might be back on board this year, writing and directing the My Career story. So it'll be interesting to see if that is the case. But yeah, not a lot of information in that features list that doesn't just confirm what we already know about the game, or what we already expect to see in the game with those staple modes and features. Does anything else jump out to you?
Well, I want to say that, the majority of people do not want an RPG in their basketball game. Like, they don't want their basketball game to play like that, whether it's a My Career mode or otherwise. So the RPG elements just really bring that mode down, from what I can tell. People just want to play basketball. That's why they play a basketball video game, right? Yeah, one other thing I wanted to say is that more proof, in my opinion, that so many people do not have PS5 still, that there's so many people still on last gen, is that they're once again releasing on last gen. There's going to be PS4 and Xbox One versions of NBA 2K25. And we talked about not only the price of the new consoles, the Series X and the PS5, but also the limited titles for those consoles. I just don't think they've been that popular, Andrew. I think that they've oftentimes been unattainable as far as availability. And I feel like people have basically either not wanted to spend that money, they haven't been able to get the new system, or they are happy with their PS4 or Xbox One with a collection of games those consoles had, the graphics, the way they played, all of that stuff. PS4 and Xbox One were much stronger gen consoles than what we've seen with PS5 and Xbox Series X. So in my opinion, that just speaks to the fact that so many 2K gamers and gamers in general are still on PS4 and Xbox One.
For sure. And I did think that we were going to see the end of that generation of releases. It was why I was happy to see the PC version finally be that new gen port or next gen port or Gen 9 port, as they're calling it now. The 9th generation console port means that we weren't going to lose the PC version, or much less likely to lose the PC version once the 8th generation consoles were phased out, although apparently that isn't happening. And you look at last year's preview season, where they didn't really say anything at all, apart from some early screenshots of the neighborhood to promote that version, or even say, hey, by the way, last gen is getting this, that, and the other. Every single preview was about the new gen version, the latest gen version, which makes sense, but if you're still going to be selling that last gen version and at full price, you at least want to give gamers, first of all, a great product, bang for their buck, value for money, but you also want to give them some kind of previews during the preview season. You may put it as an aside at the end of the developer insight, and they've done that before. As for prior gen, this is what that version is getting, this is what next gen features we've managed to cram into the last gen version. We didn't get any of that last year, which is why I thought that was going to be the last year for last gen. Apparently not. There will be cross-gen progression once again for my team, a shared VC wallet between consoles in the same family. So if you have PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X/S, then anything you do in my team will carry over. If you buy one version, you get both. There is what they're calling dual entitlement, so you will get a digital copy of the other generation of the game. The pre-order bonuses, Derek, actually seem to be very stingy compared to previous years. Less VC for the special edition.
No League Pass.
Yeah, no League Pass. That is a big one, because that was a huge selling point the last couple of years. Makes you wonder what's happening there. A lot of people have pointed out that if you wanted to get League Pass, then getting NBA 2K was one of the best investments. You get the game, obviously, you get League Pass, you get all the digital bonuses, the VC, the My Team cards, etc. That was some of the best value for money you could get if you wanted to get all of those things. Interesting that that's not happening there. The pre-order bonuses, I'm not going to go all through them, but there's the usual VC, XP coins. There's a puffer jacket in the special edition. That's very exciting, a puffer jacket to get for your player. But yeah, they're actually much stingier than in years past.
That's not surprising to me at all. And I'm wondering if somebody was losing money on that League Pass deal, and that's why it's not there.
Could be.
Anymore, right? That's usually the reason why something gets taken away.
Yeah, I suppose the replacement for the League Pass is the 7-day early access. We're bringing back early tip-off, this time a week ahead of release. The early access will begin August 29th, 2025 at 9 a.m. Pacific time worldwide. And besides the early tip-off, the game will, of course, be coming out on September 5th, 2025. And this is something else that I've noticed mentioned, Derek, that it feels like the games are earlier and earlier, and they've gotten earlier and earlier throughout the years. We used to get the games in later September or even October, closer to the start of the season. Now, of course, they release it earlier. You can get started earlier. You can start spending money earlier as you grind up a player and then have to make a second player because they change the builds or people find out which builds are OP, and that's what everybody goes to. So you have to create the second build, pumping all that extra money into the game or grinding as the case may be. Yeah, it just feels so early, especially for a game that has such a short development cycle to begin with.
There's got to be a reason why they released them earlier. I'll tie it back to money reasons. There's got to be a money reason for
sure,
it.
Yeah.
I will say also that the games have the ability to be updated constantly. They push through updates constantly on these games, so you don't have to worry about the rosters being all messed up because
Day
they're
one
early,
patches, yeah.
right? Yeah, you don't have to worry about stuff like that because they can just patch in a roster update, and they can just patch in, a uniform change or a court change and all of that stuff. And that's just gaming in 2025, right? So they don't have to wait closer to the season to make sure all of that stuff is accurate. So maybe that's one of the reasons. But it boils down to something related to money. We just know that. But yeah, I hope that our listeners enjoyed this show, and we're going to be reporting on all the updates related to college basketball 2028. For EA Sports, any updates related to that, the NBA updates related to NBA 2K26, etc. So hopefully you tune in each and every week.
And once again, you can check out my summary of what we know so far and see the cover art, see the first look screenshots. Derek, we got the first look screenshots of the cover players. People have pointed out that Carmelo Anthony's Knicks jersey is incorrect in that screenshot. And of course, somebody on Reddit said, oh, you'll just pick on anything. You'll just nitpick. And, this is a sim game. You would think that authenticity is the name of the game. I know that people can get over the top about certain details. There is a reason why we have a running joke on the NLSC podcast about shoelace physics, about nitpicking too much and focusing on the wrong details. But, it's a fair comment, Derek, to say that the jersey trim is wrong. And to be your first look screenshot, your cover player, it's not the best look.
Yeah, it also looks like a recycled cyberface, right? Like, people are going to point that stuff out. People have been playing these games for years. And yeah, we talked about it last year with NBA 2K25. The screenshot that was shared widely of Vince Carter, the first screenshot that was shared of him in the game, it looked absolutely terrible. It looked piss poor. It didn't look like Carter, etc. And yeah, I mean, they got to do better. I don't understand how that stuff gets through. I don't understand how the marketing department works exactly, but I don't understand why the screenshots are so poor sometimes during preview season and there's inaccuracies. I also think that the way they promote the game, we talked about the early gameplay videos that go up. I'm surprised that that's how they preview their game. I'm surprised that those videos are so often for that the gameplay, the people they have on the sticks aren't more experienced, that they don't know how to play the games better, that they don't know the players better, etc. So yeah, I'm usually pretty disappointed overall in preview season when it comes to NBA 2K.
I mean, there's no competition. What are people going to do? Get another game? It's certainly coming from a position of overconfidence, arrogance, really. And it has been a long time.
Well, just to let our listeners know, too, keep an eye out for my gameplay videos because, when NBA 2K26 is released, I'm going to be putting some gameplay videos out there.
Oh, yeah,
and,
absolutely.
Try to keep an eye on those, and I'll try to show off the gameplay the best I possibly can, like I did with NBA 2K25.
And look, it is unfortunate that we do feel so cynical, that it is difficult to get hyped, but we've been around the block a few times, Derek. We've seen multiple preview seasons. We've seen disappointing games. We've seen the telltale signs of bullshotting, of them obfuscating details that are not going to paint the game in a great light. We've seen the tricks. We've seen the lies, the misleading statements. I did a whole video on that, Derek. You can go back and watch that on our YouTube channel, The Lies of Developer Blogs, where I pull up some quotes from the previous seasons of NBA 2K18 and NBA 2K19 that contradict each other. So we are aware of this. It's why we are a bit cynical, certainly skeptical at the very least, and I think that is healthy. And I understand people want to get hyped, and I don't want to pour cold water on that. I don't want to make them feel silly or anything, but, there is a reason why we are, at the very least, skeptical. But at the same time, we do want to approach this with an open mind and a certain amount of enthusiasm, so we'll certainly try and do that, but we'll definitely be talking about the news throughout the previous season.
Yeah, and I didn't hate NBA 2K25. In fact, I'm still playing it.
Yeah.
I have over 400 hours into it. So there is some optimism. I am excited for NBA 2K26, but I do hope that there are improvements.
And yeah, it is the game that matters, and as long as the game is great, then it doesn't really matter who's on the cover or what the cover looks like at the end of the day. With that being said, that has brought us to the end of this week's show. As always, thank you for tuning in, and please join us again next week, and every week, on the NLSC, nb-live.com, our YouTube channel, or wherever you listen to podcasts. In the meantime, make sure you're following us on social media. That's where you can get in touch with us, and of course, stay up to date with all of our content. So Derek, go and plug the handles.
Hey, you can reach me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at D for3G and at D for384. I'm also on the NLSC, D for3, and on YouTube, D for3.
As for me, I'm Andrew in the forum and Andrew NLSC on X and Blue Sky. The NLSC is on X, Facebook, and Blue Sky at the NLSC. We're also NLSC Basketball on Instagram and Threads. We're on YouTube at NBA Live Series Center. And of course, keep a look to the NLSC itself, nb-live.com, for everything we do for basketball video games. So, thank you once again for tuning in, and until next time, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Derek.
Go get buckets, everyone.